Good morning. This is Leo Bebou with KTWH, and on the Across the Divides show this morning, I have the pleasure of having in the studio with me Erica Adams, who is an author, a storyteller, and radio host on your favorite community radio station, KTWH in Two Harbors. And Erica, welcome to the studio that you don't spend that much time in, do you?
No, not physically.
No, because you are, what would we call you, a commuter broadcaster?
Possibly.
Or a remote broadcaster? We don't want to say that you're remote in personality because
Right.
you're very vibrant.
Thank you. No, I do my best.
But you do produce your show from
Yes.
Duluth.
Yes.
And that show, remind us about your show
Yeah.
on KTWH.
Yes, I'm the host of The Tale Collector, which airs every other month, or every 2 months.
It's gotten a little more intricate for me to remember how to refer to it. Your show is heard on that particular Friday of every other month at 2 p.m., repeated on Sundays at 2:30.
Yes.
The Tale Collector.
Yes. It used to be once every month, but I had to cut back, for a variety of reasons.
And what some of those reasons are is that you're being very productive and are very busy because you have a project that's come to fruition here.
Oh, yes.
Children's book that I am holding in my hands. Unfortunately, you in the audience can't see the beautiful cover and inside illustrations of Erica's new work, New Moon's Family. You want to tell us a little bit about this, Erica? How long you've been working on this and who you've been working with and how it's all gone?
Well, I first got the idea of this many years ago. I forget exactly what year it was. It was partly inspired by my younger brother Noah, to whom I've dedicated it. He was about 5 at the time, and he's 18 now. Hopefully give you an idea of the time gap.
That's a pretty long, pretty long period of time for you to have a chance to bring this to bear, to fruition.
Yeah, it was actually my first or second year of college, one of the two. It was my early years of college. In the story, to help give you context, in the story, the character of New Moon is sad and lonely because no one can see her in the sky, and no one is out at night, and it's up to the sun to remind her that she does have family members even though she can't see them. And I don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah, a spoiler alert, but when the author is speaking, I let the author tell us as much as she's willing to divulge.
Yeah. So basically the idea of the story is that, even if your loved ones aren't with you physically, they're always with you in spirit as long as you remember them, as long as you all remember each other. Yeah, as long as they remember each other.
Sounds like there might be a profound thread about your relationship with your brother there.
Yeah, he lives with my dad and stepmom in Illinois. My sister and I don't get to see our dad's family that often, and we missed a lot of his childhood and his growing up. So I dedicated this to him because I miss him, and we try to keep in touch as much as we can. But he's growing up. He'll be in college before too long. I think he's going to be as of right now, he's going to be 19 in March. So.
Yes, so in many ways he would appear maybe not to be the same person that you would have known at 5.
Yeah, that is true.
But yet he's always there. And so this book very, shall we say, both subtly and with beautiful, moving couplets of rhyme and illustration brings that out for whoever is reading this, whatever their situation is, because everybody's situation might have a unique spin. But you've anticipated that there are people for whom that kind of message would be important.
Yeah.
So what's your feeling now? Have you gotten it right? Does it feel right?
It's kind of surreal, actually. I'm very pleased with how it came out. I'm just amazed that it did, just having the thing in my hand,
How long has the most intense part of the author journey been? Has it been a few years that you've been working on the text and getting the illustration and the publisher to work with you?
Yeah,
how fast does something like this come together, I guess?
I think it took almost 2 years, a little over a year and a half, when we actually got going on this.
Right.
It did take some more time than usual because I was still working with my illustrator at the time. I'd gotten in touch with Beavers Pond Press, the publisher. We were all on board with that.
And Beavers Pond is semi-local, at least they're a Minnesota publisher.
They're in Edina, Minnesota. Yeah, thank heaven that Hannah, my manager, was so patient with us because the illustrations weren't finished at the time. And Eric, the illustrator, he had just gotten a new computer art program, and he was teaching himself how to use it. So this provided a good opportunity for him to teach himself some new things about it. He made some beautiful illustrations. He surprised me many times, but in the best way possible.
It's remarkable, the illustrations here, and it brings up the whole question of the partnership that came to pass. I mean, you didn't know Eric before you embarked on this project.
No.
So this is Eric Soderstrom, I believe.
Yes.
And he is mentioned as a Two Harbors native, although they say in the information page that Eric is now living in Silver Bay. But makes him pretty darn local. That's pretty amazing that you, not knowing each other, somehow connected. How did that happen? Is there an interesting circumstance?
Yeah, every month on the second Wednesday night of the month, I attend one of my writers' meetings, a local writers group, to share stories with everybody. I was at one of those meetings one time at the Two Harbors Library, and the coordinator, Shelley Getton.
We know Shelley well here. She's a very well-known local poet and artist.
Yes, absolutely. At the time, I was presenting another story, The Fledgling's Guardian, which involves dragons. I was telling the group that I was hoping to eventually find an illustrator to make a cover for that story. I was actually more focused on that than New Moon's Family at the time.
Okay.
And Shelley mentioned that, at the nearby art gallery, that she knows someone who does fantasy art. And so she took me to the gallery and showed me some of Eric's work, gave me his information, and the rest is history. When
you saw some of Eric's drawings, it hit you that this person might be just right for what you're doing?
Yeah.
And yet that was for another project. He wound up working with you on an additional project.
Right. It was, something else entirely. But
the plot thickened, in other words.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, this was, this is still fantasy, so it wasn't totally, out of his realm.
Right.
But yeah, at the time I had just seen, dragons, and it was kind of more toward the kind of thing you'd see in Lord of the Rings or something. But yeah, he, I sent him some initial drafts that were actually done by my stepsister, Rachel. I feel like I want to give her a shout out for this because my stepsister, Rachel, she did some initial drafts for me. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to illustrate for me. She was originally my first choice for illustrator. But yeah, I kept some of her original drafts, and I think that helped me to tell Eric what direction I wanted to go for this. But otherwise, I told him, do the moons this way, at least, do something so we can work with it. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time, but otherwise, go nuts. Everything else, just go nuts. Do the backgrounds however you want. Surprise me. And surprise me, he did.
It appears that he took you at your word because he's added a lot of nuance, a lot of interesting activity going on at times. Even in the quiet scenes, there's more to see than meets the initial view.
Oh, yeah, there's so much fun stuff at night if you just look for it.
But I don't want to have any more spoilers, but there don't appear to be any dragons.
No, there are no dragons
so
here.
So there's room for another project with you and Eric and dragons, perhaps.
Yeah, well,
you never know?
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Okay.
I'm going to focus on this one first. Maybe when the dust settles, then we'll see about that one.
I think it's worth doing a shout-out again for that local writers group. It's on Wednesdays, the second Wednesday of every month. In fact, tonight on October 9th, I believe the monthly meeting.
6 to 8 p.m.
Yeah, so great things, partnerships, surprising plot twists from attending your local writers group.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I always have so much fun at, different writers groups. The one in Two Harbors, there's, one in Solon Springs I attend every Tuesday morning, and, Lake Superior Writers, of course, in Duluth.
Oh, you're busy. If you're getting down the Solon Springs and up to Two Harbors, you're on the road. You're like a have car will travel type of writer.
It is so worth it.
Is it?
Yeah. I leave right after work. It's about a 45-minute drive, but so worth it for, what I get. The people are so friendly and supportive. And
it recharges your creative ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Oh, wow.
Yes.
But this is not something new to you. You are a relatively young woman, but you've been at the writing game for a little more than a little while, ever since well before I knew you.
Yeah. I did self-publish the novella Allie's Adventure on the Wonder back in 2014.
Okay.
You may remember we had discussed that once.
We discussed it on the radio at length, and it was an incredibly interesting story, especially as it related to your journey with your growing up with a particular audio processing.
Yeah, auditory processing disorder.
That book is one you self-published. Can anyone find it locally to even have a gander on on what the young Erica Adams was writing?
Yeah, it's still available on Amazon
Okay.
In physical and audiobook form, and then Barnes & Noble exclusively for Nook.
Okay.
That one's just audiobook.
Okay. And how about the new work, New Moon's Family? How and what guises is it going to be available? Online or local booksellers?
Okay. Booksellers will come. We're not quite at that point yet. At the moment, you can find it on Amazon.com and itascabooks.com. Itasca is the warehouse where it's at. We're still trying to work out a couple of details as far as, the ISBN number,
Yes.
so retailers can get it. It has to go on the Ingram database before I can try to get it into the stores. That is to come, I promise.
And will you keep us posted if there are any local outlets for maybe author talking to readers and maybe meet and greet between the author and readers?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. You'd like to do such things?
Yes, I would. As soon as the opportunity presents itself, I'm more than willing to do some personal book signings and readings and things like that. I'm actually meeting another friend of mine for a radio interview in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So that will come later.
We're speaking today with Erica Adams, a storyteller, now a published author with her book New Moon's Family out on Beavers Pond Press, and she's a radio host here on KTWH, and we talked more about her fascination with stories. Well, I can say I knew you when, Erica, perhaps, if this career continues to unfold, because it does. Apparently, you have a lot more stories in you. Mm-hmm. I know you exhibit through your Tale Collector show that you have a deep, deep interest in how stories are told and various media for expressions. So I guess I'm curious as to where next. Do you go back to your dragon story? I even heard, for instance, that you might have an adult fiction work in progress.
Yeah, I've been working on that for about a year now. As of right now, I have just about 10 chapters finished.
Okay.
That are being polished.
Of course, without knowing whether it's a 50-chapter book, I don't know how far in you are.
No,
Do you know how many chapters there will be?
At this point, I'm thinking, 20 to 25.
Okay.
Haven't quite gotten to that point yet. But, yeah, that one's going to be for adults. So it's kind of, partly a personal challenge to myself to see if I can write an adult piece that's, more mature, maybe a little more graphic as well, but not gratuitously so, hopefully.
Yes, you are always concerned about that. I appreciate that.
It's like I still want it to be meaningful, but I do want to shock a little, I admit. But yeah, that's also, long story short, a friend of mine, recently got me into the whole Star Trek franchise, or at least I watched the original series on Netflix. I kind of binged on that, in fact.
And then it lives again and again in different guises, though.
Yeah, I started to develop a love of old science fiction, and then that kind of helped to inspire me for this one.
Maybe I missed the hint. This adult fiction is speculative fiction, sci-fi in style in any way?
It's science fiction fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah, my main character, is a cinephile, movie buff.
Okay.
Loves the old science fiction, and then she actually ends up meeting aliens. I don't want to spoil too much from there, but it's.
Tell me about chapter 12 then.
No, it's kind of crazy. So I'm still working it out, so I don't want to say too much in case I change it. But yeah, that one has been. That one I've been particularly passionate about, for the past year. So that one's a work in progress.
I won't be able to get that out of my head now, Erica. I'm thinking a cinephile who is going to meet aliens, and I'm thinking of Sigourney Weaver.
Oh yeah.
I'm off on a tangent, obviously.
No, that's okay. I actually still need to watch that. I know it's that. I actually
yes,
have.
you probably do.
I know. It's on my list. I promise. I have a bunch of old sci-fi movies that I haven't watched yet. I'm watching them for research.
All of us of a certain
yes.
age watched Alien when it first came out, and we're probably wondering, will we ever have the stomach to watch that again? I definitely think you need one time through.
Yes, I plan to.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been watching stuff from like the 50s and the 60s, and Star Trek, of course, for research purposes.
Okay, that seemed to be an era when on TV there was more sci-fi and/or suspense than there is these days. There were shows like The Outer Limits and Twilight Zone.
Oh, I've been watching that one too, The Twilight Zone.
Right.
Yeah, and actually,
really never been done better since.
Yeah, one author who has actually become a favorite of mine recently, Richard Madison, he wrote a few episodes of The Twilight Zone, and he wrote an episode for Star Trek. He wrote the books that would eventually become the movies What Dreams May Come, Stir of Echoes, and I Am Legend. I think the latter had different titles depending on the exact movie, like The Omega Man and whatever. I forget the original, but yeah, he's actually written quite a few stories.
So he's influential for you. Okay.
Yeah, very. Yeah, one of my biggest inspirations for this particular book that I'm writing was the movie The Incredible Shrinking Man. He wrote the novel for that, and he wrote the screenplay for the movie. I've heard that's actually one of the better sci-fi movies to come out of the 50s, as opposed to like the B movies.
There are a lot of cult, aka also known as B movies, that are almost camp parodies of themselves.
Pretty much.
Upon release, they were already a parody of themselves, like Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh my gosh, that was hilarious. I have seen that one.
Was there a director named Ed Wood? I think there was a fellow named Ed Wood that there was a latter-day movie made about the camp sci-fi movies that were being produced.
Yeah, didn't Johnny Depp play him?
I think, maybe. Steve Buscemi, I'm not sure.
In a biopic? I thought it was Johnny Depp or something.
Maybe
but
so.
Anyway, yeah.
We're showing our lack of knowledge as we talk about this. But
okay, well.
Hey, there's an open microphone, and you're the guest of honor, so it's okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so I have a bunch of movies on my computer that I have to watch for, research. It's some of the most fun research I've ever done.
I was going to say, this is not...
I am very much enjoying it. Still getting through the Twilight Zone. I got to go back to Star Trek, the originals.
Well, there's there's a long winter ahead, Erica, for lots of independent study of media.
Oh, yeah. I'm reading this big anthology of Arthur C. Clarke.
Okay. We all know what that included.
2001.
2001.
Yeah, I love that novel. I couldn't put that one down. Yeah, the movie was fantastic.
So you have wide ranges of influences and inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
So The Tale Collector will continue to run on KTWH until you become such a big and popular author that we can't pin you down to even do an episode every other month. Hopefully we can look forward to keeping you on, Erica.
Oh, yeah.
You've been with us since the beginning, right? Since
pretty much,
first aired.
Yeah. Yeah, I just finished my 50th episode. I think Night on the Galactic Railroad that I think just finished its run. That was episode 50.
And you have covered... Because your intent is to try to show people that stories can be told in virtually every medium. I think you've even included video games, movies, of course, short stories and/or novels, and I can't even remember how many other realms of digital. Yeah,
TV shows, stories that have been adapted into other media. I do films adapted from books. I try to talk about both of them. I do stuff both for kids and adults. Any age group, any genre, any media, a little bit of everything.
So if people want to reach out to you and give you feedback, is there a way that they can do that? Or do you have an email for fan letters?
Yes. Yeah, if you want to reach me, you can just email me at elatales@gmail.com or through my website at elatales.com.
Okay. ELA Tales as in stories, TALES, right?
Yes.
Yes. Those dragons also have tails.
Yes. Yes. And the ELA they're the initials of my full name, Erica Lynn Adams.
Excellent. Easy enough to remember. Once you remember that this young woman is all about stories, you can remember elatales at gmail.com.
Thank you.
It's great having you in the studio. I feel very honored to have a signed edition of your new Moon's Family book. It's been out on the street, so to speak, for a few weeks.
October 1st, I believe, is
the
when.
Official publication date. So we're just a week, just a little over a week in to this new life.
I got the copies from the warehouse a couple days prior, but the official publication date was the 1st. October 1st. So
are you driving around with a box of fresh off-the-press books in your car? So anytime you run into someone, you can bring it out?
Or at least I will be. I ran out of a box recently. I'll be putting another one in my car.
I actually can't imagine how exciting that must be, so congratulations on that.
Yes, thank you.
Well, Erica, you're welcome back anytime when you have a new project. We'd like to hear about it right here on my show on Across Divides and on KTWH. Thanks so much for what you've done for us, and congratulations for what you've done in publishing this children's book, New Moon's family, which I believe you said is ideally perhaps for ages 5 to 8. Is that what the publisher says?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And even for children who are too young to read at the moment, this, at least I hope, be a good story for parents to read to their children before bedtime. They can look at the pictures. I kind of had Goodnight Moon in mind, as I was putting it together.
And I'd say that even more than Goodnight Moon, this is one to grow with because it'll be more and more evocative as the text means more and more to the child as they grow up.
Yeah, I hope so. And plus, there is a little something extra at the end, a little informational poem about the phases of the moon. So
it's quite educational. It is, even for a person of my age. It reminds me what I once knew about the moon and sometimes forget.
Mm-hmm. So whether you like poetry or even astronomy, got you covered.
Excellent. And locally illustrated as well by Eric Soderstrom. So this is quite a package to check out, folks. Thanks a lot for stopping in, Erica.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Anytime. All right. You take care.
Thank you.
We were speaking today with Erica Adams of Duluth, who has just published New Moon's Family, illustrated by Eric Soderstrom and available from Beavers Pond Press. This is Leo Bebou for KTWH.